Please rise and raise the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Moines County Board of Supervisors, April 6, 2021. Are there any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have none.
We have an agenda. Meet with department heads, elected officials. Cheryl Bay, Des Moines County Auditor's Office, and Budget Director. And incidentally, congratulations on yet another unblemished audit
Thank you.
that came the other day.
Great audit. Good job, you guys.
Well, I think you get
I
the
think you
vote.
did.
It's
you,
a
Cheryl.
team effort, trust me. We're working on a budget amendment right now. I heard from 5 departments, so the sheriff's, Veterans Affairs, Public Health, non-departmental has that CDBG, Young House Grant, and Pioneer Cemetery. So if there's any other departments that are needing a budget amendment, please get with me before Thursday afternoon, so I can get that in the paper. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Cheryl. Colin Gerst, IT.
I just keep busy like always, but nothing new to report.
Thanks, Colin. Brett Grimshaw, Des Moines County Sheriff's Office, First Deputy.
Not a whole lot. Talked to
Chief
the
Deputy.
sheriff. Yeah, he wanted me to tell you guys that he is here, but he had a legislative meeting he wanted to attend at 9 o'clock, so just letting you know he's here. He's on deck, so. That's it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Brett. Brian Carter, Secondary Roads.
Good morning. Busy day, but a good day. They are pouring the bridge deck out on Highway 99 this morning. Started at about 7 and should run till 1-ish, give or take. So they'll do the whole deck all today. So that's good to have in our review mirror as of this afternoon, I guess. So so that project's moving along good. Flint Bottom is moving along very well also. Hope to pour the first concrete on that on Friday. So it's a good week to see things moving and well, good weather for that actually. I think we're gonna get rain the next couple days. Guys are out blading, but the rain won't hurt us actually. We dried out pretty good, which was good for many reasons, but a little moisture for the guys to blade won't hurt anything at all. So I actually had some dust complaints here the last week or so. There's not much to be done about that, but I had a few conversations with folks with different ideas about what should be done. And we also took our the dust control bids, which is paid for from rural services, but we handle the program and everything else. So they came in good. We only had one bidder. I think we've had one bidder other than maybe 1 or 2 years actually in the whole thing, but they're good bids. It's Benton Stevens, and so the total bid was $93,000 and some change. That's not the total for the county. It's actually under that because we do bid just under $9,000 worth of work for the city as part of that program. Because some of what we do borders up against the city. We were able to save the city some money by just lumping their stuff into ours. They get a bid amount rather than going out individually to a contractor. So I think that's a good example of us working good with the city or vice versa, however you want to look at it. So that won't be, that's a late May, June thing. I just wanted to mention it to you that's, we did get that taken care of. We have started rocking what we call our tier 1 roads, which is the roads that get the full length calcium chloride. So there are 3 semis running around every day right now, as long as we've got the bodies. And we have also started with we have 1 dump truck that works all summer long, we're rocking basically dead end roads and stuff like that. So our rocking program is up and going, and all things considered, will run on and off for probably the next 6 months, give or take. So culvert crew's going. I think we're gonna close Beaverdale Road tomorrow to do a culvert up there, trying to get some of the ones across some of our dust control roads done and out of the way while we've got the opportunity.
Were you closing Beaverdale?
It'll be up in the area of the 165th intersection, but off the top of my head, I can't remember if it's just north or south of that. We'll do a press release they were actually gonna work on that this morning, once they tried to figure out if it was gonna be a 1 or 2 day. It may just be a 1 day closure, but otherwise it may include 1 night, so we always do a press release on that type of a closure. More or less, just try to give, the buses a chance, a heads up, and, fire, emergency response, we try to let them know too, so. So it's a busy time, which is good, that's what it needs to be, so. Other than that, I've got an agenda item here later on in the meeting, so.
That in itself will provide an interesting real-life experiment.
Yeah, it will, we're gonna find out just where our viewership goes.
Find out which takes longer, a
It'll be-
major bridge deck pour or your 5-year construction program.
They are surprisingly neck and neck.
I know which one I'm losing.
I think it'll be a good study, you know, unfortunately, with Cheryl here, we won't know if the viewership ramp up is because of my program or because of Cheryl being here instead of Terry. So, but, either way, yeah, if we got time, that is going on, we'll be back out there this afternoon, so, that's all I have.
Thank you. Doug Irvin, Correctional Center.
Good morning. Everything's going good out the jail. Our population is up to 85 this morning. That's what, we have 6 in our intake this morning, so it must have been a pretty good night for some people last night. Or not so good night for some people last night. And we got a trip for 3 to Oakdale yet this morning, right now. Other than that, everything's going as planned, kind of same rotation week to week on Oakdale and residential facilities, so.
Thank you, Doug. Jared Lassner, Land Use.
Good morning. I do have one item on the agenda today. Another subdivision out for review as well. It's been a fairly busy week. I think it's somewhat typical for this time of year, but we've had a number of new inquiries about splitting up a property and things of that nature. So it's as the weather gets warmer, get more people looking at prospects for that. So it's keeping us busy there. Apart from that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Jared. Lisa Schaefer, Des Moines County Attorney.
Good morning. We are busy. Trials obviously are now going. We have done 4 already since we've been allowed to start trials in February. We do 2 misdemeanor trials a month and then 1 felony week a month. So we are plodding along. The list is not moving nearly as quickly as we would like, simply because of timelines. Now everything's starting to converge. We're also getting ready to do 3 murder trials between May, June, and July. So we're keeping very busy with those. I do want to give kudos again to Colin for our AV equipment. I actually got to use it in trial last month and got to see how it worked. I mean, it's sweet. It's very, very nice. The juries really, really appreciate
You didn't step on the cord, did you? You didn't step on the cord, did you?
No, but one of the assistants did that in the very first trial. The one thing we told him not to break, he broke before the trial even began. He's being more cautious of it now, but the juror, I had a couple of jurors remark that had actually done jury service before in that room, and they were commenting how much nicer it is, especially given where they're having, they still don't like the chairs, I'll just tell you that. I think someone described them as the county's form of purgatory.
They should come to a board meeting.
Well, at least these chairs are cushioned. The problem is, the pews are very, very uncomfortable. And I think sometimes people don't necessarily know to bring a cushion or a pad with them to sit on. So they're sitting there for an hour and a half. Or if they're selected, and they haven't had the opportunity to do that, they are sitting on a hard piece of board. for 6 hours a day. They're extremely uncomfortable. So yeah, other than that purgatory that was described to me, they do like the new sound system. They do like being able to see everything. They think it made just everything a little bit smoother. They like that rather than having to take the time to, walk around and show everyone a photo. We could just put it up there and everybody sees it at the same time. So that's been a really, really great thing that we were able to accomplish during the COVID. We do have a new hire for our civil attorney. He'll be starting at the end of the month. I'm not gonna say who it is right now because he's trying to wind down a private practice. But he is a local attorney here in Des Moines County with lots of civil experience. And so we're very excited to have him coming aboard, especially me since I've been trying to tread water with the civil stuff and keep up with the criminal stuff at the same time. But we do have 3 trials scheduled this month. April 13th is a misdemeanor trial, April 20th is a felony trial, and April 27th is another misdemeanor trial. We have 2 misdemeanor judges, so they each have their own dockets. So one of them gets one day, the other gets the other, because they did not do any trials last fall for that period of time when we were allowed to do a few. They kind of ceded it to district court so we could get as many district court cases done as we could. But now they have dockets well into the 80s, 90s, 100s as well. I know the felony docket for April, we got down to 82 yesterday. And only one gets to go. So, and then of course, as Doug mentioned, you get 6 new arrests. Well, that's 6 new cases that have come in, but we're only getting rid of 2 or 3 of them via trial. So eventually the timing is going to come to a head and we're gonna have to figure something out. But otherwise, things are going pretty well.
Thank you, Lisa. Chris, lead conservation.
Well, mine's much more positive than that.
Good.
So we had a full campground in Big Hollow this weekend. I think it's the first time in April we've ever had a full campground first weekend in April. But I mean, you couldn't ask for what you could. It was a little bit breezy and chilly at night, but otherwise, really great weekend. Had a decent number of campers in our other campgrounds as well. Tonight is our bi-weekly hike and park event. Tonight's is at Winder Conservation Area, so this is going to be kind of off-road, off-trail. We don't have any trails back there. It's all a natural area. Pretty neat stuff to see. This is where we built our newest pond. So anybody wants to come see that, come see it tonight. Then otherwise, just trying to get ahead of this now summer swing that starts in April. So just staying busy otherwise.
Thanks, Rick. Angie Vaughn, safety.
Good morning. I really don't have anything new, just keeping busy and getting things going for the year, so that's about all we got.
No news from you is always good news.
Except I did hear from Leah that some of the supervisors were out on the 99 bridge while it was under construction. And she didn't feel you were being really safe.
She didn't name any names, did she?
She took pictures. She showed me pictures. She has proof.
Let it be documented, Leah's a rat.
Let it be documented. Leah doesn't want to write a story about a supervisor being killed because they fell off of a bridge that was in construction.
One of your supervisors has fallen off bridges.
Fair,
More
fair.
than once. That's the word.
They weren't in any danger.
You were watching them, right?
Yep.
All right.
One of them stayed on the ramp.
What?
One of them stayed on the ramp, wasn't going on the bridge.
Say,
She did say that.
Very good.
Thanks, Angie.
You're welcome.
Janelle Nally Longquist, Des Moines County Treasurer.
Good morning. We're busy, but nothing new to report.
Your high tension date has passed, so ease up just a little bit.
Not on the motor vehicle side. No, it's still busy anyhow.
It's been 3 years since anybody stopped in our office on April 1st to mention that you closed earlier. For some reason, they couldn't get in, that they intended to pay their taxes when they were due.
I can assure you, I don't recall us ever closing early on April
Well,
1st.
I'm pretty sure you didn't. They just thought if they stopped and mentioned that we'd say, forget it.
Yeah,
Doesn't work like that.
no, it sure doesn't. There's always gotta be a cutoff somewhere.
Thanks, Janelle. We got anybody online? Nope. Either of you gentlemen? No, sir. Okay. correspondence. I have none. Do either of you gentlemen have any correspondence?
I have none.
Proceed to discussion and vote. We have accounts payable claims in the amount of $804,178.57.
Move approved.
Second. Terry. I'm sorry, Cheryl.
Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have payroll claims reimbursements in the amount of $40.96.
Move to approve payroll claim reimbursements. Second.
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We need to approve an engagement letter for Anderson Marketing Company for the fiscal 2021 audit. And I need to thank Cheryl and Sarah for going through there for me and highlighting all the changes from last year. So that was, I wasn't ambitious enough to do it, and I knew it was gonna be a deal, so thank you very much. That
You're
was-
welcome.
I move to approve engagement letter for FY 2021 audit. Second.
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Okay. We have a fireworks permit for 34 raceways for April 17th and August 7th, 2021.
Move to approve both of them. Second.
Cheryl?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Approval of the Hall Summer Minor Subdivision. That would be Jared.
Yep, so this is just a one-lot minor subdivision located just a mile or so south of Burlington off of Summer Street. The lot is just about 2.5 acres. It's at the intersection of Summer and 50th. And the purpose is, it's a approximately 22 acre property that was recently purchased through an auction, which includes mostly farmland, but there's this older house at the north end. And the purpose of the subdivision is simply to split that house off to be sold and reoccupied, while the remainder of the farmland will be continue to be used as farmland under the person who purchased it recently through the auction. So it is a little strange the way it's situated at the corner there. There's quite a bit of right-of-way included as part of the parcel, and that's just to reflect the fact that the intersection with 50th Street has been altered a couple of times over the years, as it was originally more just a straight-ahead V connection between where it led into Summer Street, and it's since been the alignment has been adjusted, so now it's more of a right angle intersection there, which as a result over time that's resulted in more right of way than usual at that corner. So that's why there's more of a discrepancy between the total size and the actual private acreage of the property. As I said, it already has an old home on it. One of the comments we received was from the health department, noting that a time of transfer inspection would need to be completed before sale of the residence. However, after consulting with the subdivider, we did determine that there actually was a a time of transfer inspection that had been done when he purchased the property several months ago, and that's within the 2-year time frame, and so that one still applies. And based on the results of that, it found that the existing septic system was in good condition. The fact that it had just been installed like 5 years ago, and since the house has not been regularly occupied during that time, it was found to essentially be in like new condition. So the septic situation has already been taken care of. Access is already provided through existing driveways off of Summer, and then one rear driveway off of 50th. So in terms of comments received, I think that addresses everything. This is within the Burlington 2-mile subdivision review area. The city has reviewed it and approved it at their meeting last night. So with that, we recommend approval of Paul Summer subdivision as submitted.
Thank you, Jared.
I move to approve the Hall Summer Minor subdivision.
Second.
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We will get that signed for you. We have 2 personal actions for the sheriff's office. We have Thomas Seitz, deputy, a 24-month step increase. The previous rate was $54,882.04. The new rate is $57,931.07.
Move to approve both of them.
Second.
The second one's for Colton Atkins, a deputy. It's a 24-month step increase for $54,882.04, and the new rate is $57,931.07. And we have a motion to approve both of those.
I thought you had second one, I got jumped the gun. didn't I?
Oh, no, that's
They both
you-
got the
you-
same rates, though,
you
so.
think they're the same thing, and you guys have
Yeah.
both seen these. Cheryl?
Did I second?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Reports, we have the general assistance report for March 2021, the Veterans Affairs report for March 2021, the recorder's report of fees collected for March 2021, the auditor's report of fees collected for March 2021, and the jail stats for March 2021. These reports will be on file in the auditor's office and available for public review. We have minutes for the regular meeting, March 30th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Cheryl?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Doesn't look like there's any easy way around this. We're gonna have a public hearing on the 5-year construction program.
There they go.
Move we go into public hearing
So good going.
for the
You'll
2022.
This
take
is the
it
slowest
personal,
I've ever
Brian.
seen them leave.
Can you send me the clip
It's good
notes?
to see you.
Doug said, send me the clip notes.
Send me the clip notes.
I see how y'all are.
Everybody's walking out on you.
I think that Kay needs a break so we can go walk around.
Sure, just think they call when you get the time, sure, sounds
Did
good.
you second that?
Yes.
Oh, Lord Colin, you
Cheryl.
have to stay here and
Jim
listen.
Perry,
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Shane
Remember the days
Campbell,
when you guys
Yes.
would calling?
Tom Parker.
Yes. Okay.
To clear out. So I'll note, you'll notice on the agenda, it mentions, budget and construction program. We're just gonna focus on the program. We have to do a separate packet. You have to approve it, but it's a DOT form for budget. It will look completely different than what we did at the county, but it's just something we have to do for the DOT. So I'm not gonna hit on that. I will give those to you, so you're welcome to glance through them if you wish. But I won't spend any time on it because pretty much every time something comes up unexpectedly, our budget changes somehow.
Colin,
So
if you noticed that the number of viewers on YouTube is spiking, let me know. I'm
we need more
very curious on
bandwidth, I
what peaks
imagine.
out.
More bandwidth.
More bandwidth.
Some other IT.
More bandwidth, is that the reason why,
Yeah.
Bud?
Brian, you did get one extra viewer. I don't think Chris is
We need more
understaying.
bandwidth,
Yeah.
Tom.
Chris, there you go.
Yeah, right when you think you heard it all.
I should be back here and say, we can't do that for short program. That's what
Because you 10-year anniversary.
I'm
More
sorry
power.
I didn't do
More
camping numbers
bandwidth.
See what
last
he said
week.
there, everybody
I
walking
ended
out.
up
Betting on
having
the
to
silver
take
cup.
the rest of the week off, so I didn't have time to do camping numbers. And I
Oh,
also
my
have
Lord.
to eventually write my spiel for geos, but I will do camping numbers this week.
And
Chris
then
just
so-
stuck around because he probably wants some gravel or something.
Right, he said, I'm not gonna lie to you. I need
That's
some
the
gravel.
budget, so I can say I gave it to you.
Yeah.
There's the budget, just so I can say I gave it to you. Okay. That's just the DOT form. That's just that budget form. Okay. The DOT budget form.
Oh, I see how it is, Brian.
Well, you're welcome to it. It's no different than anything else. There you go.
And I need a pen.
It's not a secret. It's already what we've done. All right.
Thank you.
So,
Is that why there isn't anything in the paper anymore, nobody got pen?
Well, do you want to see my notes that I took at city council last night?
No.
Or my notes that I took at supervisor let's see. My notes that I just took,
Wasn't very many.
Okay.
it
All right.
goes all the way over.
we're gonna run through this probably quicker than our 5-year program tour that we took last week, but a little more line by line, because we didn't hit everything last week. We hit some of the high points, some stuff that was a bit more visual, I guess I would say, stuff I wanted to give you a heads up. So,
And not an apology, but in all seriousness, this is a running joke around here, but this is, we appreciate the time you put in on this.
Oh,
And it is important.
I mean, well, we all understand that stuff we do day to day doesn't excite anybody else to some extent, so,
And we hate to give up the joke, so.
I don't call you
I'm not
serious.
going to.
There are two maps with what you had, I do wanna mention it, it's a disclaimer for I give for every year. The first one says fiscal year 22 to 26, that correlates to the 5-year program, so they're color coordinated. But same thing as you guys had. The second map is simply showing some of the, what I'd call more major projects we've completed since I started. So it's just a kind of a visual to show where things have happened in the county and what and there's some labels on it if you're curious what it was, but, so.
Cool. I always give Mrs. Broker my extra set.
She sleeps well that night. So, so let's lead in with what's not in here. for instance, the project we're doing, nothing we're actively working on is in here. So once you bid something, you don't go ahead and put it in. We used to go ahead and carry it in the first year of the program, kind of to make sure the media realize we're still doing the work, that kind of thing, but we've quit doing that because the DOT would rather us not have it in there. Once it's bid, it's considered obligated, it's no longer part of the upcoming new budget. So I do want to point out that the Pleasant Grove project that we just bid, and I didn't mention it during department head because I was gonna bring it up here, but I'll lead in with that actually. We did just bid Pleasant Grove project, that was slated, and when we did our budget presentation, that was in there as a 2022 project, but I came to you guys and said, this is a chance to get our good bid prices. Let's launch this thing out there now, and let's see what happens. And plus, we wanted to try to get it built this year. Well, I think we made the right decision. We had 4 bidders, which is great on any project for that matter.
For Pleasant Grove, you got 4 bidders?
Yeah. Our engineer's estimate was just shy of $647,000. We're always a little conservative. Anybody will tell you they're a little conservative on an estimate, but you never know in the market like this, what is it gonna get bid like a short little paving job, which is obviously higher cost, or is it gonna get bid because you've got competition, which is gonna drive the price down? I think our estimate was pretty darn good because our 2 high bidders, the high bid came in at $640 and change, $600,000 more or less. And that was one of the first ones Cheryl opened up. She opened up these 2 first. The second from high bid was just almost $630,000. So you hear those 2 bids and you're thinking, hey, our estimate's pretty good. Sure you'd love to save a bunch of money, but you're feeling pretty good that your estimate was in the ballpark. The next one, second from low was Jones, who is doing our Flint Bottom job. They're a local contractor out of Weaver that does really good work. They came in at 504 and almost 505, which is, again, that's a great number. I can't complain about that. And then you got your reason we did this. The DOT's contractor was their low bidder on the upcoming phases of work. Flynn Company, who will be doing all that work over the next year and a half, apparently was looking for a little side work. They came in at $409,000. So that's a couple $100,000 under our estimate. So I do want to pass on credit. I don't think I do this often enough, but we're pouring a bridge deck today. We're pouring concrete on Flint Bottom, which is a large set of plans. So I want to give credit to my office because that Pleasant Grove project wasn't supposed to be out of our office in March to be sent out to contractors and that was a lot of work in Devin and Becky's part. There's been a lot of work in our office in general, in the middle of construction already starting up. So credit to them.
I gotta be honest with you, and it's nice you give them that credit. We already give them all the credit.
Well,
That means you don't get it.
that's fair. That's fair. I have no argument with that. So yeah, we saved a nice chunk of change compared to our estimate. If you go back to your budget book from when we sat here in January and talked construction program and stuff, what you'd see in there is if you open that up, I think my very, very early estimate was 800 and some. There's about 100 foot of this project we didn't go ahead and do because we found out we didn't need to. There's a culvert under this road in this location. Once we had time, the snow had to get away, obviously. Once we had time to really evaluate that culvert, it's in good shape, at least good enough to get us by for quite a few years. So there wasn't any reason to go replace a culvert, which was a deep culvert. I mean, it was probably $100,000 just as that sits. And then that's an extra length of paving also. So what we did was we ended this project far enough back so that hopefully someday when we can continue on with this paving towards Highway 61, when they come in and they have to go deep for that culvert and they bench back because you've got to have your slopes safe and all that sort of stuff, they won't get into the paving we're doing now is the whole point. So So there was a portion of that project, so if you happen to look back and see that 800 and some, that there was probably 150 in there that we did not have to do as part of this project, it wasn't a priority, so anyway, I mentioned that because we did a bid and I try to give you guys a heads up, so we'll work towards contracts and stuff like that on all that, that'll run through you guys. I also wanna mention it because it's not mentioned in the 5-year program, because we went ahead and bid it in April. In all likelihood, it's got an August 16th late start date. It could start anywhere from the time contractor signed all the way out to August. So, time will tell. It is a closure. I told Shane I'd let him know because I know that impacts his drive on the weekend, but it, that's probably, it's a multi-phase project because the quarry, we have to keep access to that quarry. They've been great to work with. I give them a lot of credit. They know it needs to be done. Also, that road in front of the quarry is falling apart. But it's it's probably a month and a half, or hopefully maybe a little less, but somewhere in there of a full closure. So it's gonna take a little bit.
It's gonna be under 2 months anyways, for sure.
It will be under 2 months. I think the work could go longer, but we actually we did a double set of, a double, it's not a right way to put it. We put kind of a double working day thing in there. We have a working day limit on full closure days. So that's road fully closed, and then there's a total working days. So there's actually more total working days than there is closure working days, and they both have liquidated damages attached to them. So you come in, you close the road, and you go over that closure working days, there's a liquidated damages for that. And then, of course, there's the total working days, which I want to say one is 30, I think the closure is 30 working days, and the full working days is 50. So there's 20 working day gap there where there could be work going on, even a 1-lane closure in there, but not a full closure. So trying to motivate the contractor to keep that closure as short as possible. So, anyway, so I want to mention that because credit to them and credit for get that out of here, because that was a rush. Bid that on April 1st, and I think that's a really good number for Des Moines County.
No doubt.
What we will do is those kinds of savings, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, we're doing more work on Flint Bottom than we thought we could afford. That's because of all the savings we've seen in the last couple of years on our concrete bids that we've done. And that Pleasant Grove project, that wasn't even, we didn't think we'd get to that project. It wasn't even really in the program as far as that short of a segment type project.
You saved enough on that, you're probably gonna be able to re-rock Jimmy and Tom's driveway.
Well, Tom's.
Tom's, that'll sure Mrs. Brooker up.
So, anyway, leading into a construction program with a project that's not even in there is kind of weird, but I wanted to point that out, that is, really, it's a fiscal year 22 project, it's just, we went ahead and bid it early, so. Alright, so lead right in with a bridge project. We're at the top of the first page that has any color to it. It's on Highway 99, so I guess more irony, the day we're doing this happens to be a good day. We're pouring a bridge deck on 99, but it's also a reminder that the gift that we got from the DOT is the kind of gift that keeps on giving. Highway 99, of course, was a DOT road. They forced it. The DOT forced what, 700 or 800 miles onto the counties back in '02, I want to say, legislatively. Des Moines County was the 3rd or 4th highest in the state as far as mileage. Highway 99 was one of those gifts. 79 is another one, 406, another one. 34 was negotiated, actually. It was not part of that. It was in the same time frame, but it was negotiated as part of the 4-lane. And so, but including 34, I think we took on over 30 miles of road in that one, basically a 2-year window right in there. One of the things we did when we took all those on is we took one body out of our office. That I actually did that once because those roads came to us just before I started, and after I started, we had a gentleman retire in the office, and instead of increasing manpower, just going up on that, what we did is we took a body out of our office when he retired, and we actually upsized our shop by 1 person. So we kept our labor the same, but we reoriented our bodies, I guess, is what I would say. Anyway, 99 is it's just that gift. I mean, there's a lot of money on 99 in here. We're spending, we had the bond to get that project done that we're doing right now, because otherwise it would have pretty much put our entire program into gridlock for a $2+ million project. So that, the bridge that's in here is the next bridge to the north from the bridge we're working on right now. It's over what they call Dry Branch Creek. It is between Y Camp Road intersection and the golf course road intersection. It's a major project, it really is. We're going to try to improve safety there. We're going to try to minimize closure, at least for the first phase of that whole project. And all the while, we're kind of trying to let this project down here get going and get done before we ever do anything up there. So I would like to tell you that this project will bid in sometime this fall, but it probably sets up to be sometime in the next 12 months, one way or the other is how I'm gonna put it. I'm not gonna make any real guarantees at the moment. We are to a point where we're ready to go. I need to get environmental permits, and we need to start buying right away, is the main points where we're at. The first phase of this project is what's in here. As you'll see, there's 2 different funding sources. It's basically a partial grading and a bridge replacement is the first phase of that. The new bridge will go roughly 5 foot east of the old bridge. There's 2 reasons for that. One, again, we're trying to kind of improve safety. If you've been through there, that curve isn't real enjoyable, if you're not paying attention especially. So that'll flatten that curve just a little bit. It won't be, obviously, you're not gonna go through there at 75 mile per hour, but it will be a little bit better alignment. We're gonna raise that bridge also to help with sight distance. So we'll build the bridge. If we move it over, the other benefit is we can minimize closure on 99 while we're doing that project. There might be some 1-lane stuff, maybe even an isolated full closure, just depending on if they need to set a crane. Or maybe the day they pour the bridge stack, they need to set the pumper out in the road so that they can pump concrete, something like that. I won't tell you there won't be a closure, but generally we won't have any full-length closures, or at least keep it down to minimum. And then, of course, they'll do some grading that they can do off of the current road. We'll jump to this, in another year I'll address this rest. But the funding-wise, the bridge itself is swap funding. That's the old federal bridge funds that's now swap funding. That's 1.1 million, and that's just an estimate at this point. That could certainly fluctuate upward. The grading would be FM oriented, so that's 250,000. Again, both just rough estimates. So as you can see, that's approaching a $1.4 million project, just on the front end. That's just that first, kind of what I'd call that first phase. And that bridge is on our paved system after the bridge we're doing now. It is the worst rated bridge we have on our paved road system. So,
Do you know when that bridge is put up?
I want to say the 20s or 30s, Jim, but I could be off. I would have to check, especially with that being a DOT bridge. I don't know those histories off the top of my head as well.
They used to have metal rails on the side instead of cement.
Yeah, and I say that though, and actually when I think about it, I think Flint Creek Bridge was in the 50s or 60s, so I could be off, and that could be a 50s or 60s bridge also. I have to double check.
I remember when I was a kid driving across that, I was dating a gal down on the bottom, and I
I
hated that bridge.
What were you doing, Jim?
Don't ask.
There
Sorry.
goes
Sorry for
our
asking.
viewership.
Sorry, guys.
Don't be trying to inflate our viewership. So anyway, that's on our radar. It needs to be on our radar. That bridge was similar situation to the bridge we're doing now, where it was, if we don't deal with it, it'll go posted. It's not like it was on the verge of being closed, but a posted bridge in that area is harmful to our ag and our
And that's just weight, that's just for weight?
It's a weight posting, but as soon as you slap a posting on it, that means that the ag industry can't haul their fall 90,000 pound loads that the governor allows them to haul, and you got an elevator both north and south of it. That's a pretty big deal. So we try to avoid those if we can. Next project under that, a much smaller project. This is the one I've talked to you guys. It was actually, I was hoping for it to happen this winter, and to be honest with you, we have just been slammed. And on top of that, by the time we got serious about it, the cost of steel really started to skyrocket. And so I just made the decision that we were gonna push this off another year, really. This is in the bottoms. We didn't get down there, Shane, just because of timing. I really needed about another 2 hours, to be very honest with you, to run you everywhere I wanted, and so Leia wouldn't complain about being a lame tour. But,
Hey, if I didn't
hey,
have
that's
a
your
job.
words, don't.
Okay,
Right.
for the record,
You said you
I
can't take it back, let's just move
no.
on.
I had a doctor's appointment, and I did
But,
not keep them from finishing the tour. I
but,
just asked to be dropped off when they were coming through town anyway.
But Shane, this is a location in the bottoms. It's down kind of about a mile off the river, and this is a spot where there was an old bridge. It's a dead end road, and probably 5 years ago, give or take.
Is this wood on this, is there wood on this bridge?
No, the bridge is gone now, actually. We took the bridge out. We came along
Okay.
and put,
I was gonna ask if this was that bridge.
yeah, we put 3 tank cars in, and kind of basically looped around the old bridge. There was some extra right of way there already, because actually they built, the bridge we took out was built more or less beside the old bridge, which was gone now, and they never got rid of the right of way. So there's some right of way there. And I talked to the levy district, because I lean on the levy district pretty hard down in there for, at least for experience. We don't always do what they want, but,
Right on, right on.
and they said, you should try culvert, you could try culverts here, you could get away with it. And I'm, it's cheaper. You can, that was $30-some thousand plus labor, obviously. And so they've come back to us now, about 2 years ago. This has been something we discussed and decided a while ago. They came back and they're having some problems with an invasive vegetation in their drainage ditches now. And what it's doing is when it breaks loose and floats down, it plugs structures up. And so this happens to be where these 3 culverts are, it plugs these structures up and it causes them problems in their ditches. Because it backs water up and then things don't drain. And so they came to us and asked if we'd be willing to consider putting a bridge back in. Well, I mean, it's not a small expenditure, but what I told the board at that time is that, to be honest with you, if they had said this would be better suited for a bridge and culverts, we would have done a bridge then. Like I said, I rely on them. Those guys know that drainage system. It's not like anywhere else. I mean, the water down there, there's only a couple channels that openly flow to the river. All the rest of it is pumped. I mean, it's, and so I do try to get their input on the larger areas, to see what they're thinking and everything else. So anyway, I came to the board, they were comfortable with trying to help them out and doing a bridge here. So that's where this is at. Sometime I'll get you down there, so you at least have a visual where it's at. This will be a beam and slab bridge. This will be one where we bring a contractor in, they'll do the
What'd you say this would be a what?
A beam and slab bridge is what I call it. And I'll show you sometime. We'll get out and see it. We've got a couple in the program, but we've done probably, it's a design that I brought when I came here and started as a county engineer. It's, the main reason we like it is it fits a gap. It fits the gap where it's a site that's too big for culverts, but it's really too small for your typical DOT type 100-foot long bridge.
Okay.
So the typical spots for these are anywhere from a 25-foot long all the way up to like a 55-foot long. That's kind of the typical range. We've probably done 7, 8 of these, 9 of these, just where they fit right. And the nice thing about these is that we can do part of it with our own crew. So we actually have a contractor come in and drive the piling and build a cap, and then we actually take it from there. We do the site grading up front. Once they move out, we'll put the deck on, we'll build the deck, we'll pour the deck, and then we build the runaround, and then we do the final site grading. So we're able to do it with our own crew and on our own schedule.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons we use these bridges. And so, that's what this will be in this location. And so I just wanted to more or less bring you up to speed on what that project is and where it's at and everything. One of the agreements I did have with the levy district is that if we don't have another use for those drainage, for those tank cars when we take them out, that they will buy those off of us. Because that was our investment in that. We spent over $30,000 on those, and that was one of the ways I felt like it made the taxpayer whole to some extent, was if they were at least, the labor part, we were gonna have to put a runaround in anyway, so that the labor, one way or the other, they will help us also. They're gonna do some help with us to get that all out of there, because when we put those in, they're not put in, they're put in to stay, so they're not meant to be taken back out. So it'll take some doing to take them out. The guys will be thrilled. So anyway, there's the second project. Third project in this is, it shows as a 115th Street, 91st Avenue. That's a gravel road. It's a narrow, poorly drained, has been from the beginning of time as far as I know. Gravel road just north of Tama Road. We're not gonna work magic there, but I'm hoping that we can get the right of way and be able to widen that out, get some ditches alongside the road. This road has probably a dozen houses alongside of it, and when it really takes a beating is when there's issues with Tama Road, because this is kind of the short range cut through for people to jump from Tama over to Highway 99. So if you're ever down there on an average stretch of time, it's just mostly just the houses. But then all of a sudden, Flint Creek comes up and closes Tama Road, or the river comes up and backs across Tama Road and people have to reroute. They don't ever follow any signs to the way to go, they just take the closest, and this happens to be that closest. So that's what that is. I've already started talking with some of the agriculture owner there and seeing if I can buy some right of way. So that is in here, but there's still a lot of legwork to be done. Realistically, with where we're sitting now, my guess is this is probably not a project for this year, but time will tell. The next one is just a generic Highway 61 lighting, and that's really just a placeholder. When the DOT finally gets wrapped up with this portion of their 4-lane, we'll go along and reevaluate. We have lighting, basically a single light at all of our paved road intersections. Some of those will survive and stay. Some of those will probably come out as part of the project, and then we'll need to come in and put something in. It's not mandatory, we just try to provide that at our paved intersections when we can. So that number, I would say, is a long ways from being some sort of a fixed, perfectly estimated engineering estimate. It's one of those things where we'll just react and deal with when we see what we really need to do, when it's all said and done. Any questions on that first page? Everybody still awake? I'm impressed. Second page. What do you guys have at the top of your second page for dollar
Highway
amount?
61 approaches, 70,000. That's those 61 approaches.
Yeah, I think,
Then rock surfacing, crack sealing, and culvert liner ditches.
okay, I'm gonna double check, but I think we might have an old version in front of us, because I think, I mentioned this to you on the tour.
Yeah.
The DOT gave me the wrong numbers right off the bat. I think this year's it is 61 approaches, but I think this year's supposed to be 200 and some thousand, and in a year or two out, it's supposed to be 70,000, so.
That's in the one that you gave us last week.
Okay,
40.
so I think I have an old version, and I apologize for that. I had to get all this ready, because of the bridge pour being today, we got it all ready a little early, and I think so I only wanna mention, because what I showed you last week had 200 and some thousand in it, that's what this will be. So, I think she just printed
Sorry, guys.
she just printed this as a time before revision. I think that'll be like 240 or 270 or something like that. So just enough, really the biggest thing is that you're already aware what you are, I believe, that we are paying for approaches. Some of them have already been installed actually. So,
That's really a good deal to have them approaches, you know, it keeps the motor grader off the main highway.
it does improve safety
Yeah.
greatly, especially for the motor grader.
Yeah.
I think it does improve safety for the public too. I think when they go to take off, they're not spinning on gravel and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, oh yeah, there it is. 240,000 was in I showed you last week. And that may, again, they gave me the wrong number in the wrong year, so that number might fluctuate a little bit too. What we do, Shane, there is the DOT bids all that work, so we get their bid amounts. We just simply pay by their bid amount. They'll invoice us eventually.
Oh, when they get around to it.
No different than they will be invoicing you guys in July 1st for that trail work. I mean, you paid for, that actually you didn't have to pay the bid amount, which is really good for you guys. You just paid a fixed amount of 100,000 that they based off an estimate of theirs, which is a heck of a deal. So, all right. The rest of this rest of this page, I'm just hitting it real quick. You're gonna see 2 or 3 of these on every single year. Rock surfacing, Shane. That's I don't think we touched on this when we were on our tour. That's part of the problem with me driving and also trying to hit everything. Every single year, we try to what we call pinch 5 miles of gravel road. Pinching is it will get you phone calls. It'll get me phone calls. But it's where we go in and we disc it almost from ditch to ditch, out beyond the road surface, just depending on the road. Sometimes we don't go out that far, sometimes we do. We disc it up a couple times to get all the clods and the grass broke up, and then, come along August, September, somewhere in there, once we're finally to a point where we're trying to get on with our rocking program first is what we try to do. We'll come in and we will rip up that road and we'll pull all that material in and we will recrown that road. Probably narrow it up a little bit and recrown it. And when I would say recrown, we put a lot of crown into those roads. And then we rock it.
So you're taking the dirt, you're using what you get.
We bring all that dirt and then we mix it with all the rock and everything that's already there and just basically recrown that road with everything we have right there.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're getting surface drainage. You're elevating the road just a little bit. You're going from, in all likelihood, the roads we do this on, probably a flat road, more or less, to a road that's got probably 6 to 8% crown, which someday it won't be 8% crown. It'll settle out over about 2 years.
But it is at the onset, and it's a little narrower as well.
Sometimes they end up narrowed up, sometimes they just feel narrower because of the work we did. And every one of them's different. I mean, there are ones where we intentionally do narrow up. There are ones where we don't, I actually make them keep it the width it is.
What's the biggest complaint when you pinch?
Crown and
Is
too
the crown
steep.
that bad?
Drop
I mean,
off.
I can't visualize it.
The first year, it's very, I won't call it extreme, because it's not extreme, but the first year, it's a lot of crown. It just is.
Somebody said it makes it really tough by the next winter?
Well, that's typically what they get worried about, is like, I won't be able to drive on this in the winter, but when it's all said and done, I gotta tell you, I don't remember the last time somebody called me back and said I end up in the ditch on this road. Everybody drives in the middle of gravel road anyway.
People who've been driving on that road for years, maybe even there's a lost crown, so it's gotten on there used to it, and all of a sudden, there's a new crown on it, and maybe it's ditched a little bit, and it feels like driving on a mountainside.
Yeah.
It feels narrower, and I mean, that's normal, whether it's you or me or anybody, it's just different. If you have to go on that road, they change it like that.
It's a poor man's way to vastly improve a gravel road. And I say vastly, they are hands down our best gravel roads when we're done.
How many roads do you have to pinch each year?
We try to do 5, but here about 2 years ago, I decided to try to double our effort, which is a lot. And we try to go 10 now, which is, the way that comes up is I estimate, so what we do is we don't have, that rock is above and beyond what we do on our rock program. I didn't want to take away from the rocking program. So what we do is we take construction program money towards that because it really is kind of a reconstruction of a gravel road. So we try to target, we used to budget about 75,000 and I doubled that. And that's why it's
Do you use the same, and you can move on for this, but do you use the same amount of rock on a pinch job that you do for redone?
No. So a pinch job, we end up putting on somewhere between 800 and 1,000 tons per mile. We do it in 2 different layers. So we do that. We bring all that material in, we recrown everything, and I will get you out there on these roads. This summer, you will see us doing it. I will have you out there so you can see us doing it. You'll also I'll take you to a road or 2 that we've already done, so you can see what it looks like. The first year, of course, nobody's happy. Ultimately, they do seriously turn into our best gravel roads, and we're probably up to 70 miles.
Okay, one other question though, then I am done.
Yeah.
So how long is, once you pinch the road, how long is that usually last for? You said so it ends up being one of the best gravel roads for how long?
We haven't redone any since I've been here, so I can't tell you how long. I mean,
okay.
They as long as the motor grader does his job and stays after it, I'd like to think that they may not ever have to go back again. I can think of one road, and I've got to believe it was because of the material, and because you get into the bottoms, you can get into a lot of different silty, sandy, that kind of thing. I can think of one road that didn't hold its crown after we pinched it, and I could see us possibly pinching that one again to try to get that crown back into it. But all the others actually have done a nice job, and again, as long as the blade guy stays after it, because then they go into our rocking. They're back into our rocking cycle, so every other year you get rock on them. So yeah, they've turned out very well, but we do hammer them pretty hard with rock. I mean, we'll lay a 400 to 500 ton per mile layer of bigger rock, like either 1.5 inch road or clean rock of some sort, depending on how muddy it is when we do it. And we'll lay that as our first layer, let it sit there for anywhere from a week to a month, because we want some moisture and we want traffic to drive on it. Because again, this is kind of the poor man's way, so we don't bring a roller in to roll it. We don't even have a roller. We're just using traffic to our benefit. So we shape it, rock it with some bigger rock, let the traffic kind of pound that in, let the motor grader keep shaping it. And then once we feel like it's ready, then we go ahead and cap it with another 400 ton per mile of road rock, just our regular road rock.
Right, I got you.
Okay,
Do you-
Shane, let me give you an example. I had a gentleman, every Sunday after church, we'd go out and eat, and he happened to be there too. Every Sunday I got this preaching about how bad this road is because of pension. I quit going there to eat, and went someplace else on Sundays. I happened to run onto him, and this about 6 months later, run onto him, he said, I really need to apologize to you. He said, that road is better than it's ever been, and he said, it's really a good road.
I mean, the number one complaint early on is just people driving it. The first year, it'll be farmers who even clamored for us to do something about the road, be really unhappy, because when you're pulling wagons, which I do, that first year with that much crown, especially if you meet somebody and have to get over, it's a lot of crown. There's no question about it. I know I've seen lowboys get hung up on the center of it when they're coming out of a field entrance and
Really?
and actually hung up a lowboy. I've seen that one time. I mean, my typical call from somebody that really wanted us to do something, but we did something and then, we pinched it and whatever, the typical call is, boy, I really like what you did, but could you take just a little bit of it out? And
It's gonna come out good times.
and that's what I say. I said, I know it's a lot, but give it a year. It'll be a different road next year, and give it 2 years, and it'll be a spectacular road. You just gotta give it a little time, and that's how it works. I make a bigger point out of it with the 3 board members, because there is a time period where especially the first month or two, where it does open up to phone calls and unhappiness, because whether you're somebody that doesn't know what they're, never driven it before, whatever it is, it does ruffle some feathers, but in the end, I estimate that somewhat runs somewhere in the 10 to 15,000 a mile range, and that's just for the rock. That doesn't have our, but
What you're
it's,
spending that on rock,
That's-
just on rock alone?
yep, that's just the cost of the rock. So any roads we do that on, we separate that expense, and we actually pull that out of new construction.
Okay.
Because it fits,
You reconstruct.
honestly, and it does not take away from our rocking program. So it's been a good way of doing business for us. So like I said, I'll get you on a couple roads sometime and show you what they look like, and then this summer later on when we're working on them. And I will be the first to admit, 10 miles is a lofty goal. We got 9 miles last year. That's a lofty goal. That's time we're done with rocking program and everything else. One of the things we did, we got somewhat out of doing driveways, or not entirely, and that has freed us up a little bit of time for ditching and some of this work, so that did help. But it's a lofty goal to get that many miles in 1 year. Leah, you had a question.
I did have a question.
Did you forget?
And then the mayor started texting me.
He's texting you?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
So you don't have a question?
No, I do have a question.
Okay.
Do you guys do it a specific timing so that there's a certain amount of time for the road to get beat down before the snow comes? Or
Yeah,
is it just
we'll-
whenever we get to it?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of both. We're not gonna do this out in, it better be a mild fall if we're doing it in October. We have done it in October, but it
Okay.
was because we were in a really dry pattern, and we
Okay.
felt like we had a month and a half for it to really get pounded down.
Okay.
You're not gonna see this out in November. I mean, we've done this before. Well, I had you on the road, Leah. You stepped in the
yeah.
windrow muck 2
That's
years
right.
ago.
Do you remember? I don't remember when.
You're one of the few people that would step in that windrow muck, but you did. Yeah, I mean, every so often, for instance, like that situation, we got caught in the rain.
Yeah.
But you remember what that road looked like when I took you back down to it, when you wanted to see it again? It was.
Oh, yeah, it was
in-
beautiful.
Yeah, it was in great shape. So that was a great example where we get caught in the rain,
Uh-huh.
and not just a rain. We got caught in like 2 weeks of rain after we'd already cut it and done it. And that road we actually hauled clean rock onto for our first layer. And it worked. In the end, it worked out really well, but it was pretty ugly there for just a little bit. So no, we try not to do it, we're not gonna be doing this in November. You know, that's, you're just asking for trouble out there, so. Anyway, the last couple there, you'll see, crack sealing, culvert liners, and right of way. I keep basically token dollar amounts in there. Every single year, we have a contractor, he works in southern Iowa a lot, he does culvert liners. He will pull things off for prices that I don't even know how he does it for, and in places where it's the only option you can really do as far as a liner, for instance, through a culvert. So we just keep token amounts in there in case something comes up, in case we need to do something that we didn't foresee. Or every so often, so, you know, if I have a crack sealing in there and we have a bid come in that was really good, maybe we can afford to go do $100,000 of crack sealing. Well, if we have that line item in there and we have the cash from a savings on another project, we can then go do that project without doing a program amendment. I keep those in there, and honestly, again, that right-of-way line, that's any given year, we might have a culvert come up where I need a little bit of right-of-way or something like that, so I just keep a token amount in there for that. Any other right-of-way we buy, if it's for a regular construction project, we take that right-of-way out of that construction project, so. Any questions on the first year of the program? All right. So green now, second year of the program. Right at the beginning of 2023, we're right back into that dry branch. Bridge project that we talked about earlier, right off the bat, up on Highway 99. This is that final phase of it. This is probably a little low, to be very honest with you. That number more or less just represents the paving side of it, but also during that phase, we need to tear an old bridge out too, because when we're all said and done, traffic will move over onto the new road. This will be a full closure. And it'll be an extended full closure because they do have to finish the grading. They gotta tear the old road out. They gotta regrade the whole right of way for the new rest of it. Line it all up with the new bridge, rock it. They gotta rebuild the White Camp intersection, and then they gotta pave it. So this won't be a short one. This will be we'll put dust control down. We'll have some gravel road detours because there are no other options up in that area, and we'll run traffic all over the place. So that estimate's probably a little bit low because we ultimately do, like I said, we have to tear a bridge out as part of that project also. But that's the remainder of that, and that is the portion of it that will definitely have closure on it. Second one is Golf Course Road, PCC paving. Golf Course Road it's just a hill, is all it is. We look at it, I think we drove through there and slowed down a little bit, didn't we, when we were on our program tour? I mentioned to you that that's on our radar. You guys know we've had a few complaints about it. We're using it as a detour right now. It'll get used as a detour during the first phase of this kind of project. Basically what we're doing is we're just beating it up. I mean, we might as well just beat up and use pavement, and then we'll replace it. It's not in horrendous shape, to be honest with you. It's rough. The joints are a little rough, but it is not. It's not like it's falling apart terrible. So we're gonna keep using it and abusing it, and it is on our radar to replace. I don't know that it will actually fall in this fiscal year. I'll be the first to say it may push to the following fiscal year. Some of that's gonna depend on cash flow. We'll figure that out. We're not on the cusp of it right now. So, and we may end up, the other thing goes, we may end up tying it to that Highway 99 paving project. Maybe we link it to that and we do it all at the same time. We'll figure it all out. So I just want to mention that is on our radar. I hope that that's a high number, but that's really tight quarters down there. That will probably be a little bit more of an expensive paving project. And then the bottom there, PG 23, it's another beam and slab bridge. It's a shorter one. I didn't take you guys out to this. It's how am I gonna describe where it's at? Well, you can see it on your map if you want to see the green circle. It's kind of in between. How would I describe it? Kind of north of Middletown is how I would describe it, I guess. It's on 190. It's just it's a little short 20-some foot bridge that it's posted. It's on a low volume gravel road. The nice thing is we replaced the culvert to the north of it, so it's in good shape, so that anybody can go either direction. They don't have to cross the bridge. But it is on our radar to get it replaced. It's probably been floating in our construction program for, I bet it's been in the program for 6 or 7 years. It's been on our radar, we just haven't shaken the money loose to go do it. You see it, Shane?
PG 23?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's what that is, and again, that's a beam and slab. We'll bring a subcontractor and they'll do the piling and stuff, and then we'll do the deck. So, good little project. It's been out there for a while. We'll see what happens and whether it stays in that fiscal year or not. Top of the next page, crack sealing. I have had it on my radar for quite a while to try to do a larger scale crack sealing project, so that's what that is. Obviously that's one of those projects that can flex a little bit depending on cash flow. $300,000, that's a big crack sealing project, but when you start thinking about some of the asphalt work we've done in the last 10 years, it wouldn't hurt us to go back and seal those now. And so Mediapolis Road, some of those others. So it's on my radar. It's in here. you know what, depending on what things do over the next year or two, maybe that's ends up being a concrete patching job instead of a sealing job. I don't, it's just in there because we know we need to do some work, so. And then our, traditionally, got rock surfacing, which is the pinching, culvert liners, and right-of-way. And, I don't come in with preset lists on something for that pinching, like those rock surfacing roads, because every year we figure out something needs it a little worse than something else. So that's a moving target, we won't settle until we get there. So, any questions on that year? Fiscal year 23? It's a bit of a, I mean, we have that Highway 99 bridge, but that's a bit slower of a year. Fiscal year 24, that's the blue year, if you're going by the colors. Right off the bat, the theme of this entire page are bridges, and our work over the next 5 years is kind of split between paving and bridges. But probably our biggest challenge when I look forward is bridges. And I want to mention that to you because I have the consultant coming to do 4 different bridges. They're going to do what we call chain drags on the decks to find out the extent and what type of project we're looking at. There's 4 bridges in this program. 2 of them are on this page there at that top. FR 14, which is North Gear Avenue. So that's the back way to the bridge where we've paved everything else, but we know we still need to do the bridge.
I know you've explained it to me before,
Yeah.
but you know how that goes. What's the chain drag? What's
So,
that do?
so one of the problems you get on bridge decks over time because of the salt is that salt will penetrate the concrete and you'll get little cracks and stuff, and it'll get down to that bridge steel because there's, well, I've showed you pictures of that deck we're doing now. That's why you see green steel in the bridge deck. When we talk about even stainless is coming along as a popular option, it's because that salt will get into that steel and it will actually start that corrosion process. That's the natural process for salt when salt and steel get together. And that, of course, expands, and what that does is starts to where it basically starts to cause that concrete to become defective inside out. And so it will create spots where there's seams where it'll kind of line up with that steel, to be honest with you. A lot of times when you go down even a concrete road or you go across a bridge deck, if you see a pothole where the concrete's popped out, frequently you'll see rebar it'll be rusty looking rebar in that hole. And that's where that failure happens, is that rebar has corroded because the salt has gotten to it. And that concrete will pop out. So what a chain does is they'll bring a fairly heavy chain, and you basically sweep it across the deck. And when you hit a spot where there's either a void's not the right way to put it, but where there's a separation, that sound will be different. Now, I have to be honest with you, I've only done it once in my life. I don't do it on a regular basis, but there's a different sound. And as you do that across an entire deck, somebody else paints the rough perimeters of where that sound changes, and that lets you identify the extent of damage to that deck. And what that does is that starts to allow you to figure out, can we just do a deck mill and fill where you basically take off a portion of the deck and put a new portion on? Do we need to do some full thickness patching and then a deck overlay? Or do we just need a whole new deck? You know, it lets you start to identify, which greatly impacts the cost, which we haven't done yet. So I have 300,000 in here, and we haven't done the chain drag yet. So that's what it is.
Sometime when you're doing that, I would love to go out there and see that process.
I tell you what, the consultant, I've lined the consultant up. They're supposed to be scheduling that into their work schedule, and they're going to do 4 bridges. So when I have an idea when they're coming, if it works out, I'll let you know. Well, I mean, I'll let you know, and if it works out in your schedule, we'll get you out. And honestly, I haven't seen it done forever. So, I mean, because like I said, I bring them in. They do all our bridge inspections. They put together our plans on this kind of a project. So I can't fathom why in the world I want to be in the middle of that process. I'd rather them have as good of information as possible.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Thank you.
So there's 2 bridge decks I mean, they're mentioned as bridge deck on here, but I'll tell you right now, they could be patching, they could be the full deck, they could be an overlay, I don't know right at this point.
That what happened to our Pleasant Grove Road Bridge, when we found out that beam was bad, that salt went down through there?
Oh, absolutely, that was definitely years of salt, no question about it. And that was an example where really the deck condition didn't matter.
Yeah.
We took out a 10-foot section of beam during that project.
Yeah.
We had to get rid of the deck to be able to take that beam, remove it, and basically had a custom new beam.
Yeah.
Built one of the few projects we've ever bid that came in way over estimate, actually.
Yeah.
That project came in $200,000 high. Well, it was all because of that beam.
Because that
It was
one
all
beam.
because of that custom work, is what it was. So, anyway, and that's just an example of where we didn't do a chain drag because it didn't matter. We knew we had to take the deck off
Yeah.
because the beams need to be rebuilt. So,
Really say that, give Tom and Shane a broom and have them go out and walk around and beat on that, you can find.
I like that idea.
That's one boat talking to two.
I know. I think I don't like that idea.
Bang. We have a shortage of vests, so they're gonna have to go without a vest. So, the first two bridges are, again, bridge decks. Now, here's the other factor for funding, and you guys don't ever see this side of it, and you shouldn't have to see the side of it. When I have a concern, I'll bring it to you, but, every funding source we have has rules, which you guys, again, don't ever have to deal with. I try to ignore them as much as possible, but every funding source we have has upper limits and lower limits as far as you can save it up to a certain point and you can borrow ahead to a certain point, and we do it both. We borrow ahead far more than we save up. I mean, that's just the way I try to manage it. So what has happened over time is that about 5, 6, 7 years ago, the DOT came along to counties and said, hey, you guys have too much bridge money hovering out there. Your budgets show you're spending it, but in reality, you're not getting it spent fast enough. Now, that wasn't a problem for us. We were shucking money out the door as fast as they'd give it to us. But there were other counties clearly that were budgeting bridges but weren't getting them built. And so this fund, the statewide fund that we got our money from, was getting to a balance that the state was uncomfortable with. They didn't want it. Because if the statewide shows too much of a balance, the feds don't think you need the bridge money. And fact is Iowa ranks in the top 5, maybe the top 2 of bridge condition deterioration. So they chewed on the counties about spending this money. Well, 5, 6, 7 years later, now that fund's too deep in the hole. Now counties are hammering away, and they took that motivation and they put it to use. And so what they've done is they've shrunk the window of borrow ahead and the range of borrow ahead and savings. So what I'm saying that is that we have historically borrowed ahead. That's just, I've always rammed as many projects out as I can, and if they're gonna let me borrow ahead into it, I'm gonna borrow ahead into it, because a project today is cheaper than a project next year. It's just the way it is. But they came along as funds, they'd like to see this fund go the other way now, and they'd like to see it. So they took what used to be a 6-year borrow ahead and shrunk it to a 4.5. Well, that's a 1.5 years of funding difference. So what that does to our program is where we were planning on doing 3 bridges at the same time as part of this, all of a sudden I'm questioning if we're gonna have to save up a couple years and then do either 1 a year, maybe do 2 and then 1 and 1 and then there's some other bridges that doesn't leave us, there's still no money necessarily to address if something comes up unexpectedly. Which is, Shane, was one of the reasons that the board agreed to bond for the Flint Creek Bridge. Was because if we went and had to save this money that we had available and just went after that bridge, everything else bridge-wise would have just halted. And it was doable, they just didn't want to do that. They didn't want the overall program to stop. And so, anyway, those are little things or sometimes big things that you guys don't ever see, but this may be an extended conversation someday that we have to have, is, hey, we've got X amount of bridges coming due that are by no means going to fall in, but may be posted. And they're on paved roads, and here's the funding we have available. What do we, you know, let's work together, what do we wanna go forward? Are we comfortable with it being posted until we can save the money, what do we do? We're not there yet, it's just looking in the crystal ball, there's a chance we get there, that's all I'll say. There's a chance we don't also. So anyway, there's two bridges right at the top. Both of them are called bridge decks. One is on North Gear. It's the back way into the mall. And we've done that entire road. This is kind of that final phase of that road is that bridge deck. And we've been planning on it for years. And right now it's listed in the third year of the program, 2024. The other one is on Upper Flint Road. So if you're going up Flint Bottom, you drive by the Pepsi barn and you hang a right, you basically land on top of that bridge. It's right by Highway 61. We've been kind of dragging her, that one needs to be done also, but I'd like to see that 4-lane done. I'd like to see all that contractor work get out of the way, and then we would tackle that, because that will be a full closure. So those two are right there, and I would say right now, until we get those chain drags done, I would call those our two highest priorities in that type of work. Then we've got F10 Golden Road Bridge, kind of sort of just due north of Burlington. It's kind of out in Timbuktu. Our intention, I hope that is a beam and slab bridge also. That would probably be the longest beam and slab bridge we've done. It's right out there, it's probably gonna be approaching 60 foot. So, right now, that's the hope, is that's a beam and slab bridge. And then underneath there, the very last one on this page, is H13. This is the high truss bridge up in the bottoms, across the big ditch. Funny story about this bridge, this is one that we drove up to.
That's what I was gonna ask.
It's that
This
steel
was
crusher
that
bridge.
green
This is
brick.
that one that's it's called a illustrative project, because I told you that the DOT wants our first 3 to 4 years to be accurate for cash flow as far as bridges goes.
It's north and east of Kingston.
We're talking about H13?
Yeah, I don't remember us going past Kingston to that bridge, but okay.
Yeah, we drove straight through Kingston. Oh, did we? We might have bypassed Kingston. I ran you up one to look at 145th there. But anyway, we cut up gravel and then we came back
Yeah,
down.
no, I know the
99.
bridge.
So, yep.
No, I know that. I just
So,
didn't remember.
anyway, this is budgeted or programmed as an illustrative project, but I want to mention this project. We did apply for some special funding, I guess, whatever you want to call it. We did not get picked as one of the bridges to move forward to compete for a funding source this year. Maybe next year, we'll just see if it's year to year. I think people are still figuring out or waiting to learn what this administration is gonna do, what the highway bill someday will do, and the feds have never come up with a highway bill that didn't screw things up worse than the last highway bill. I mean, that's just a repetitive way for the federal government to do. It's amazing, every year that they talk about a highway bill, the numbers get bigger that they put out in the media, and the numbers that make it to us tend to shrink. They're an impressive group up there. So this is a bridge we'll continue to apply for, but I want to mention it because this is probably the biggest area I see as long-term concern bridge-wise. You've got this bridge, which is it is posted, although it's posted at 40 tons, which is as high a posting as you can get. And it's only posted because of the new truck, or not new truck, the truck that now is allowed on county roads without a permit. But it's sitting, and it sits not quite parallel, but sits a couple miles over from 99, from another bridge that's in here, which is on Highway 99. And the one on 99 is not posted. But to do work on one, you gotta route traffic over to 99. Or to do work on 99, you gotta route traffic somewhere, and this is the nearest and best route, and it's a posted bridge. So it's an interesting dynamic when you start looking at trying to do work up in that area. It's one of the reasons why I'm applying for this bridge, because it becomes, if you look at 99, and you look at needing to do something on yet another bridge on Highway 99, we've already, that's a trend, I mean, clearly. This would be the last bridge on 99, actually, that we haven't touched, or don't have major plans for yet. It is in our program. It just creates a struggle when you've got your only bridge actually nearby to keep traffic moving north and south has a posting on it. So, especially if you start thinking agricultural purposes, that's really the biggest impact that has. So that this bridge is that. I will be right up front with you. If we don't come up with some sort of outside funding, we do not have money for that bridge. Plain and simple. It would probably be in the 5th year of my program, and I would probably say the exact same statement to you. Then that bridge we don't have money for. But it serves a far bigger purpose than you think of on a low volume gravel road in Des Moines County. Shane, when we were in 2008 when we flooded, and everything north of that bridge was in anywhere from 10 to 20 foot of water. I mean, if you remember being up that bridge, those are the levees that stopped the water from coming all the way to Burlington, was that levee system. We were parked there, I don't remember if I had Bob with me or if I was just up there. I lived up in the bottoms for about 3 weeks, so I don't remember when it was. Pulled up there one day and I watched a muskrat swim out of the water, the flood water, and walk across the bridge. Just a rare sight. One I'm not sure that you'll see on an average year. But they do serve other purposes, I guess. So anyway, I want to point that out because we'll continue. If there are additional opportunities, we'll keep looking at what our best option is to apply for. And when we get to the 99 bridges in here, so I'm going to mention a little bit more about that when we get there. So I'm going to jump to the top of the next page.
Before you move on, Brian, so these couple bridges are some of that North Deer Avenue Bridge. So one of our priorities is Flint River Trail, obviously getting the trail off of Flint Bottom Road coming, because the new trail for 61 is gonna come up, it's gonna meet right there at Flint Bottom Road where it comes out to 61.
On the shoulder, yep.
Yeah, and so in our priorities, we'd like to get a segment of the trail that isn't on Flint Bottom that comes up to meet North Deer there. Probably on the south side of the road, seems like that's about the only place you're gonna be able to get enough right away. Would it make sense if we're gonna look at doing that, to try to do that in fiscal '24 from a bidding cost effectiveness perspective, or are we talking different contractors?
No, yeah, it won't benefit you there, and I mean, to be honest with you, if you, I mean, we've never done anything there, but if you're thinking about trail ideas, we should, I mean, Flint Bottom has 12-foot shoulders. So you could very easily have an off-road but on the shoulder paved trail there. I mean, unless you can buy the right of way on North Gear, if you ever get serious about a trail and the money's out there, and I know there's some money out there coming through this, I don't know if stimulus is the right word, but whatever package you wanna call it that they just threw out for trails. It's not a very big pot though, was it 5 million for the whole state or something like that?
5 million, and your projects have to be a minimum of 500,000 and a max of 1.2. So
Okay.
you're not gonna be funding very many.
So, no, they're not. Once you go north on North Gear, of course, we'll be done with our work at that point. But my suspicion is that there might be, again, depending, if you can buy the right of way, great, because there's really no room in the right of way unless you either sit it right behind the curb.
Right.
Now, if you did that, we would, again, need to have a conversation with whatever consulting firm was involved to figure out how that would go. But we have looked at that. There are some culvert issues and drainage issues there that would have to be dealt with, and probably some right of way would need to be done. So we just have to kind of go forward on that. Now, if you can get it off the right of way, that's even better.
Sure.
Flint Bottom Road, yeah. I mean, I guess if that guy on the south side was willing, you could possibly get right away there. So, yeah, no, the bridge itself won't gain you anything, because that'll be strictly a bridge contractor. So, not a lot of, not to be gained there, I guess. You, I think honestly, if you went and looked at a paved trail, especially if you're talking concrete, anytime in the next 2 to 3 years, even 4 years, you're looking at some level of reasonable competition, because you still have some DOT work going on. So there is still another paving contractor. They're not really, doesn't mean that they're interested in paving trail, but if they find a slow period and they've got a paving machine for a trail, because it's a special machine.
Right.
I mean, there could be competition there. It's not guaranteed, but.
Okay.
All right, so I'm jumping to that next page where it starts with PCC patching. Everybody know where I'm at there?
Yep.
All right, so same thing, a little bit as the crack sealing from the year before that we talked about. Every so often, we do some small scale PCC concrete patching every single year. You guys have seen it before. Shane, you've seen a couple of those on Pleasant Grove Road over the last year or two. Those are just small scale. We do that in our regular maintenance budget, just things that need to be done. We budget anywhere from 30 to 50,000 a year just for concrete patching.
Okay.
Just things that unforeseen, just, we gotta do this. This is more of an organized design project. This is let's go to 2 or 3 roads and really try to address 1 or 2 miles type thing. I don't have set roads, I don't have set anything. It's a little bit like the crack sealing. Maybe we decide we need to do patching instead of sealing, so next year we do patching in that year, and we do move the sealing back. There's a lot of flexibility there. They're just 2 projects that we know we always have a need for. We always have a need for. It's just reality. And honestly, it's always really hard to split a large chunk of money aside for that kind of work.
Right.
It just really is. You should, but when you're doing everything else you're doing, it's hard to walk away from a bridge project and go do crack sealing. I mean, that kind of a thing, so. After that, 61 approaches, and ours are out of date, but that's a smaller number. That's like $70,000. And that's really only, I want to say 4 or 5 approaches, and those are the approaches up around, that might be a year too early depending on how the DOT progresses. That's up there in that bypass, Mediapolis bypass area is what all those involve. So, anyway, you guys are already aware of that, I'm not gonna go into that. And then you've got, rock servicing, culvert liners, and right-of-way. Kind of a broken record, but a lot of what we do is kind of broken record, so. 2025, I'm still far enough out there that it's not something we've spent a whole immense amount of time on, but the Highway 99 overlay project, it is what we, do you remember STP funding, Shane, from your city days, or STBG funding? Remember that terminology? In our world now, we call it swap money because the DOT now grabs
Swap
that.
money is the same thing as STBG money?
Well, okay.
Or similar to
So
STBG?
Better.
Well, it's better, but it's, the DOT, we negotiated, I say we, but the DOT negotiated a deal with counties and cities here a couple years ago where they now take all the federal money. So we had federal bridge money in its own pot, and we have federal
Who's got
road
this
money.
You do.
Huh?
You have these funds.
We get a portion of, let's go back. We get a portion of bridge money, it's a quarterly allocation or something like that. And it's kept in the DOT keeps a spreadsheet, we get to look at it every single quarter if we wanna see it. I've got it pulled up on my screen right now.
Okay.
So there's federal bridge money. There's also federal road money, which is STBG, or STP, which was the previous acronym. So what they've done is they've grabbed all that federal money they use it internally, and then dollar for dollar, they match it, and we call it swap money, because we get it locally without the federal strings attached.
Okay.
Federal strings are a headache. They're probably, they might double the length of a project process. I mean, they're just, and so
Expensive.
they can add costs, they can add everything, and so, and oftentimes they add time. And so it's still the same approach. Now, the SDBG money, SDP money, swap, the road part of it all goes still through regional planning. No different than it did when you were the mayor of Burlington. Now, the cities all compete for that money.
Right.
The counties get along better than that, and so the counties all get together, and there's only 4 counties in this region, and there's a fixed amount of money, keep in mind. And we decide, we keep our own running spreadsheet, and we let every county get a shot at it. So every 4 years, give or take, sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 3, it just depends on the dynamics, we go after that money. It's probably been 6 or 7 years for us, because we actually got a couple years of money in a row because of another county needed another year. Because when it was federal money, here's the other issue with federal money, you had to have a 20% match.
Right, right.
With swap money, you do not.
No local match needed. Hey, so, on that swap money,
Yep.
They don't come in and bulldog with the time and money, but is the, how do I wanna say that? Let me nibble on this. I wanna
That's fine, that's fine.
figure out what I'm really thinking.
Here's where I'm going with all this. We applied this winter for this project, for that year's swap money. And that's always called 4-year money. Means you apply for it now, you get it 4 years later. You know, federal money, that money is later.
I got you.
And so Des Moines County's in line to get somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5 million. I say that because somewhere in the next 4 years, my guess is there'll be a new highway bill, federal highway bill. That new federal highway bill will release a different amount of money to the states than we are getting right now, whether it's more or less. Rarely is it more. But, and then that will fall down through the Excel spreadsheets that be and the equations that be, and then we will get whatever that spreadsheet says that we're supposed to get. So that number, we won't know that number anytime real soon as far as exact. So anyway.
My question was, that was what I was getting to. Does it have to be to qualify? Are the criteria similar? I mean, do they give you more points for having something ready to rock and roll and all that stuff?
The points are, there is still a point system. Boy, this is a big topic, Shane. So the cities still compete. So there is a point system. You do your resolutions and you put your project together, you do your estimates and you do your traffic count, you know, all that sort of stuff, and they all throw it in there and they fight among, you know, they battle each other for it. The years ago, that isn't the way it was. When I first started here, that was not the way it was. The cities and the counties got together, we basically kept a spreadsheet, and everybody got a piece of the pie.
Okay.
All right? Then along came a now long since left director of regional planning. Mike Norris would have been a Mike Norris from before, yes. Brian Tapp, I don't know if you remember him, but anyway. Years ago, that's been a long while ago. And he got a very small group of political backing, and they didn't like the fact that the cities and counties were doing that. I can't tell you why.
I wanted it in their hands to make the decision, or
well, they felt
is it
like
that they didn't want everybody getting a cut, or
they
wanted to
felt
see
like they
bigger
were
projects?
left out. If you, I mean, in
Okay,
the
all
big
right.
picture, there were some politicians that felt like they were left out. I mean, it's no big deal. This is all long past. So they came up. They
I know, right?
It was a really smooth process, to be very honest with you, at that time. So then they came up with a competitive process. And they forced it through. They got the exec board of the regional planning to approve it, the bright politicians. I showed up and read a letter opposed to it, and it didn't matter. I knew it wouldn't matter, and we voted, the county voted, well, no, the county didn't vote against it because David Miller supported, that'd be one of the politicians that supported it, and so when he was on the board. Anyway, point being is it went to a competitive process. Immediately, as soon as it became competitive, the counties, all 4 counties, and the boards at the time, all agreed that we all need the money. We just simply do, and that was back when it was federal money, so we couldn't afford it. You can't make the 20% match every single year on 1.5 million or 1.3 million. So you need time to budget for it. So our meeting that we were already having with the cities every year, the cities, I think the cities do get along, but the counties, I think, have a little bit better dynamic as far as getting along. Maybe I'm wrong, but, so the cities, okay, it's competitive now, we can go after every year. The counties, our meeting once a year, the county engineers moved from a formal meeting held at regional planning to an informal meeting with Tenderloins at Gators. And we kept our own internal spreadsheet, and so the way to circumvent somebody trying to force you to be competitive is that only one county applies every single year.
So what you're saying is that the county engineers learned how to get along.
Oh, we were already getting along, we didn't have to learn that.
Meanwhile, the city engineers
Well,
are like throwing stuff at each
and
other.
I don't know their dynamics, no, I don't know
Not
their
necessarily
Are
the
you saying that
engineers.
the counties
Not
are,
necessarily
are you
the
saying that
engineers.
counties won't apply?
We don't go up against another county. We get together.
You don't?
We get together at Gator, no, hold on, I'm still giving you history, that's not the way it is now.
Okay.
History is that we'd get together at Gators every November,
Right on, man, right on.
have a tenderloin, and we already kept a running spreadsheet to
It's
keep
like
a
each one
fairly
of us,
even, we know what each, there is a split for how much money we expect to get. And so we'd say, hey, Louisa County, it's your turn this year, and they'd be, all right, we can line this up, because keep in mind, this is 4-year money.
Right on.
So, or they'd say, man, we got a big project in a couple of years, and I'm not gonna have the farm to market money to match it, can somebody else go and I'll take the following year? And we just had those conversations. So every year, there was one county application, and so that gets rid of the competitive issue. So after years and years and years of me chewing on Mike Norris, because I'm good friends with Mike Norris, and not just me, but anyway, in the end, about 2 years ago, I could be off, maybe 3 years ago, they finally changed the process and acknowledged the fact that the counties were doing this. And so now the counties no longer have to do that. We pretty much can go to them, we still do our paperwork, we still apply, but we can, they brought in some flexibility to allow us to dictate. So we could in theory do 2 projects. So Lee County and Des Moines could come and we'd say, we want them to have this money. We haven't done that yet, but we now no longer have to, we still have tenderloins, because we.
Got it, yeah, you got it worked out, all right.
But point being is currently, it is still competitive on the city side, and if that works for them, that works for them. I don't, it doesn't matter to me, that's their business. And I say that because I would not say that they couldn't get along, I wouldn't say that they were still
Yeah.
throwing stuff at each other, because that's not my side of the equation.
Yeah.
They went competitive and we avoided it. And so
It's a
now.
little bit easier to get 12 to 20 people to get along than it is to get
Well,
100 people.
it's a different dynamic, there's,
Yeah.
there's more cities and you got more council members, so
Yeah.
it's a completely different dynamic. But anyway, point being is, we already have funding for this project. That was a very long story to tell you that we already have, not funding, but we have a portion of the funding, we've already applied for a portion of this project. And it is applied for Highway 99, which has been a priority for us for a long, long time as far as an overlay type project.
How much SWAT money goes out every year?
Well, I would say very roughly, I don't have it off the top of my head, maybe 3 million per year.
Okay.
That's really rough, it could be
I was just
probably
wondering that
2.5 to 3.
Okay.
Cities get like 45%, counties get like 55%, and then there's a little bit of trail money every year too. So that gets kind of taken off the top as part of that, and it all runs through regional planning.
That helped Wise County on that $9 million bridge they built too, didn't it?
You know, I don't think Elijah County used any of that money on that bridge.
They didn't?
No, I think a lot of that was grants
Yeah.
and some internal funding. So they got a ton of this covered through grants,
Yeah.
so
ABC, did you notice how great Cheryl's hair is looking today?
spectacular, spectacular.
I just know you're very observant, I knew you caught that.
I'm proud of Cheryl for staying awake through this. I'm also proud of Terry for dumping this on Cheryl.
Wait, you're not proud of me?
Well timed.
You chose to be here. You love this stuff.
You could have chosen to tell the paper there was nothing going on. That's what happened.
Right.
I might be choosing to do something else.
Playing
right now.
solitaire?
I am
Um,
not playing solitaire, I
anyway.
can guarantee you that.
So point being is Highway 99, it's a rough estimate of $3.5 million. It's a very rough estimate. We're 4 years away. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that's accurate. And more or less, that's just a mill and fill. There's a little bit of stuff we'll do, some shoulder widening and stuff like that, but in essence, it's 11 miles long
Yeah,
to
it's
get
over.
from where we ended our last project all the way down to
That is
Burlington.
mostly mill and fill.
So in general, it's a mill and fill. So we'll look at the newest technology when we get closer to the project and try to do the best we can and get bang for the buck, stretch it out, because we need that whole 11 miles overlaid. And the goal is, by that time we do that, we'll have Highway 99 bridge, the Flint Creek Bridge done. Hopefully we have the Dry Branch Creek Bridge done. And that leaves no other major, large drainage structures between here and there. So theoretically, this brings Highway 99 to what hopefully is a condition that sits there for 20 years without anything, So that's kind of the long-term hope there. The next project after that is kind of my Hail Mary. We'll see if I can pull it all together or not, and we'll know here in a couple years whether I can. The other asphalt road we have in our county that really needs addressed is Old Highway 34 west of West Burlington, out to Danville, that segment. So my hope is, I'm gonna use the word hope probably 100 times, because right now I'm not gonna promise I can line these ducks up and make that all happen. My hope is to line my farm to market, some local funding, and then that swap money, and try to piece it all together and bid those two projects linked together as an overall $5 to $6 million asphalt job, which is a massive asphalt job for a county, for us. Maybe I won't say for a county, because I'm sure Polk County does that yearly. So I just want to point out those two, even though they're separate projects and they're back to back. It would bring in a nice competitive project in the asphalt industry. It would get many miles. You're talking a lot of miles that would get upgraded in that, and they all need done. So, but I will also say that's when you go do a $5 to $6 million job, that is a very dominant amount of money in your overall picture. That isn't going and willy-nilly doing $500,000 something here and $500,000. That's you got to line your ducks up in a row for the amount of funding we have to focus it in 1 year on one project or two projects tied together. So, in the old 34 project, that's basically a minimal mill and fill. That is not an extravagant project. That's let's get this surface upgraded, a fresh coat of black on top of it, and go from there.
So I guess one question that I would have is, so you're looking at these, well, I guess two questions. Number one, so you're looking at bidding this whole 20-ish mile project together? Or are they gonna be bid as two separate projects?
The goal would be to bid them at what we would call them is, we would bid them together, but they'd probably be two separate projects bid
Okay.
together at the same time.
Okay.
And that comes into funding issues.
Yep.
It changes.
Yeah.
In all odds, and the other reason is because if we go put together a set of plans for this $5 to $6 million job all together,
Yeah.
and I get 2 years from it or a year from it and realize that something fell apart and I've gotta go spend money where I wasn't planning on it,
Yep,
then I have to make the guys that put all that time into that set of plans, peel them apart and piece it back together for something that's not the same. Whereas if I put them together as separate sets of plans,
yep,
full sets of plans, and then link them together in
Okay.
the overall bidding world, then
Yep.
if you have issues, you're not rebuilding two sets of plans. Cause the one guarantee
Okay.
is that we're gonna do Highway 99.
yep,
The project that may flex, as far as costs, is the old 34.
Yep.
We may have to shorten it, we may have to do less, we may have to do something different there,
Mhm.
just depending on money.
so I know that the bigger the paving project, the cheaper it is per, like, unit, right? I think
Well,
we
I mean,
discussed this.
yeah, to some
Yeah.
extent, I mean, there is a bottom, and you're not gonna, it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's-
continually get cheaper, but you
that's
get
what
better
I-
competition, which is what helps your prices.
That was what I was gonna ask, is like, does the law of diminishing returns kick in somewhere? Cause like, I don't think I've ever heard somebody my whole life talk about, hey, let's go pave 20 miles of road this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare, no, the answer is no. I mean, there's no, I mean, we're only trying to deal with stuff that needs to be done.
Okay.
We're not gonna give you.
The answer is no.
I mean, we could be talking, we could be talking a mile and a half rather than 18 miles or whatever. I mean, it's all just, the fact is that 99 needs done, and if at all possible, all of Old 34 needs done.
Okay.
And it just happens that those add up to that dollar amount and to
Yep.
that mileage.
Yep.
But maybe it's in a regular year where I have only local money and we're desperate to go do a quarter mile, but
Yeah.
we need to do a half mile. It's all just relative to what you really need to try to fit into your,
Okay.
I mean, to be honest with you, if I had 10 miles, we do the same amount of road, we would just do a far more extravagant project that would last a lot longer.
Okay.
I mean, you're just stretching your bang for your buck,
Yep.
just stretching your dollar as far as you can,
Okay.
particularly on asphalt. So, but anyway, so I wanna mention that, and then, there's a couple other, like, the very bottom of that page, I mentioned South Prairie Road, HMA. South Prairie Road is probably, up to the racetrack, is probably one of the few asphalt roads that I haven't touched in some way, shape, or form in this county. And so while we're going by there, we'd be pretty negligent not to try to fit that project in there for an overlay. So that's why it's on there, time will tell, we'll see, so.
You can take that on out to 125th if you want to, 135th.
130th.
130th.
We try to pay for all buses, Jim. Next page, this is one of those bridges I'm talking about, Danville Road. This is out there, if you go north on Danville Road, it's the only bridge on Danville Road for that matter. If you miss it, you blink because it's the only bridge out there. Same thing. It's one of those 4 bridges that they're gonna come do the chain drag on and see what the deck condition is and see what we really need to do. So, then you're into rock surfacing, culvert liners, and right of way. And I told you those would be kind of recurring themes, and they are. So, any questions? Nope. All right. Now, Leah, you've been doing this long enough, I hope you already know this, but this is more for your purpose. Well, maybe it's for Shane's purpose too.
Yep.
And I guess our entire massive viewing audience.
They're all here for Cheryl's hair, man.
Well, I suppose it's for Cheryl's purpose too, but Cheryl, I think, has enough trust in me, she's not worried about it. But I wanna point out that my 5th year, and I am gonna mention some projects that are priorities at the beginning of it, but my 5th year is not your average year of a construction program. It is.
Wish list?
It's blown up wish list, it's not wish list like, it's not wish list like, I don't like the shoes I have, I wanna go buy new shoes. It's wish list like, soles are falling off my shoes, we need to do this work. I can't afford it, but I wanna show you it still needs to be done.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what
Right
I'm
on.
saying?
I know exactly what you're
Okay.
saying, go ahead.
My
So-
Cascade Bridge is in year 5 infinitely.
I don't know if I don't know if I would add that.
Well, and Shane, here's an example, and I've done this with this what the fifth year is it's a tool for the board of supervisors to use also. And I wanna point this out because it's been done. We've had a couple different roads and a couple different people come in this county and wanna talk about paving their road. And sometimes it's an individual and sometimes it's a group of people. But the only reason they're here to talk about is because they want the county to pay for a portion of it. Because if they had all the money, they just come and ask if they could do it, we would work through things and life would go on.
Right.
So one of the things that is pointed out, in the fifth year is a great way to pull from that, is what am I gonna cut out of my program to make this happen? Because that's one of the things I say to the board of supervisors. If we're gonna go pave Glenmark Road, and keep in mind, when somebody comes and asks you to pave a road and then assess them for their portion of it, you pay for it, and then they pay it back over 10 years or whatever. It's not like they pay for 80%, you pay for 20%, you walk away. The county pays for it and then they pay it back over time. So what I say to the board is something we have to figure out is, we just sat through the construction program, and Chris being maybe the first guy I remember sitting through this, other than the newspaper.
He wants gravel, remember?
I mean,
He wants some gravel
even
too.
Colin left. But point being is that we just sat through a 5-year program. We do this every single year. We'll do this again next year. And sometimes it's not as important for what you're doing as when somebody comes and asks. What I want rolling through your brain when somebody catches you at Hy-Vee and says, "I really like my road paved," is what in that entire thing would I get rid of? You know, what am I gonna go shorten Highway 34 project because we wanna spend some money doing this dead end gravel road or whatever it is? The point being is it's a domino effect. Our program, there's no fluff. There's probably more expense than there is. And so the fifth year, you can look at the first 4 years and say, this is actually pretty reflective of what we can afford.
Right.
You know, maybe old 34 isn't quite reflective of that, but then you get to that fifth year and you're like, you know, we don't have $10 million or whatever's in here for the fifth year of funding. But these are all projects that we have to be aware of that are going to need to be done at some point going forward. So the fifth year is ballooned intentionally to show people that we have more need than we have money.
An economist refer to that as a trade-off. It works fine for a road program and a board of supervisors. It doesn't work so well in a marriage when your wife tells you you want something and you ask her what she's willing to give up for it. There's no good answer.
Are we recording?
There's no good end to that discussion.
Carol, make sure you snip that out and email it to Mrs. Broker.
All right, I got that.
And Mrs. Broker hasn't killed him this weekend, so we got that going for us. Please continue, BC.
All right, so I'm gonna keep with the theme of bridges on this particular, and I told you that we have a mix in this entire 5-year program, but I think bridges are our biggest concern, and I'm serious about that. I think we have some bridges, and I feel like we've done a really good job of attacking bridges, but they never get younger. Everything's always getting older.
Right.
And so this first 4 on this project, but I'm gonna focus on the top 2 to start with. H14 bridge deck. This is the far north bridge on Highway 99 that I was talking about. If you learn from history, so far, only one of the bridges south of this, there's been 4 other bridges on 99, okay, that we are either planning on doing work on or did work on.
Right.
Only one of the 4 have been anything less than full replacement. Okay.
Only one has been, oh, that's right, we drove past one that you redecked, right?
Yes, we took everything off, we redid the steel, we repainted it, we redid, the abutments needed some epoxy, but then we put it all back together and we put a new deck on it. So yes, that's the only one. All the 3 south of that, the one up by Holstein's, which was done back in 08, the one we're doing, they were all full replacements. So I bring that up because if our consultants, if our structural engineers that are doing bridge evaluation come to that same conclusion eventually on that far north bridge, we're gonna have another conversation about how we're gonna pay for it. But it's in here right now just as a deck. And maybe we get fortunate, maybe it's just a deck. That is one of the 4 bridges they're gonna do a deck drag on to find out what we've got.
When are they doing it, are they gonna do all the bridges on the same day when they do this, or are they?
I'm sure they will try. They may not be able to get them all done, but we have to do the traffic control when they're here, so
Okay.
I'm sure their goal will be to try to do all 4. So, and I'm not saying that I'm gonna walk in here, I don't expect to walk in here a week later and say, oh, we've gotta do something immediately. We try not to get to that point, but
But it could be something that could be moved up to 2024 or something like that if,
well, there's no, the conversation's probably more money than anything. I mean, to be honest with you, when you start talking about a bridge replacement project, you're probably talking a minimum of 2 years. By the time, once you do a survey, then you start doing design, then you do your environmental permits, then you get your right-of-way bought. You talk about a time frame that takes some time.
bridge money, swap money, or swap money isn't always for bridges.
There are 2 different versions of swap money. One is exclusively for bridges, and one can be used for bridges, but we have never used it for bridges, we use it for roads, which is the fund, it's the money we're gonna use on, and already have applied for Highway 99. So there's 2 different versions of swap money, even
You're
though.
gonna get
here-
funky about it, I was just asking a question, BC. There's no reason to get funky about it.
Yep,
She
well,
must be working on something else, otherwise she would have corrected me.
funding is funky. So anyway, there's that deck in here for 300,000, we'll know more about that as time goes on. There's another deck, it is not one of the 6 that they're going, or one of the 4 that they're going to do, unless I add it. But this is down, on Skunk River Road, midway between, Augusta and Highway 61. There's a bridge there that is on our radar. It's in good condition, other than the deck itself has some concerns, the rest of it's in pretty good shape. Bottom 2, J14, which is a bridge in the bottoms. I'm working with our consultant right now, I'm hoping that one may actually drop off this list when it's all said and done, but, it's on here for now. It's in the 5th year, so there's plenty of time to figure that out. But we've already done some work on that bridge over the time, and I'm hoping that, maybe what we've done is taken care of some concerns. The bottom one, I think I'm gonna hit the next 2 at the same time. I am gonna hit the next 2 at the same time. Bottom one says Beaverdale Road, it's local numbers D2. The next page is Beaverdale Road PG16. These are both bridges on Beaverdale Road. They're both north of, so they're on the gravel, is what I'll say. They're north of the pavement. These are both posted. They were not posted until the DOT came along and, again, let that 7-axle dump truck run free on gravel roads. What I want to point out about this is that there's 3 of those bridges. We only had like 5 go posted. 2 of them actually don't really concern me where they're at. They're very low volume roads, and you don't want posted bridges, but you do have them. That's part of life. The one in the bottoms, which I already talked about because of the agricultural impact it has potentially. These 2 have impacts a couple different directions. They impact agriculture. Although I'll be honest, I haven't had a complaint in the 2 years it's been posted, which is a surprise to me because Beaverdale is a direct route to the ethanol plant.
Maybe nobody noticed.
I would guess nobody's adhering to it, that's my guess. Don't see many, blue boys out running scales on gravel roads, and that's neither here nor there. These bridges are not in concern of falling in because a 90,000 pound semi crosses it. It's just they have to have the posting because of the dump truck. It's unfortunate that one truck caused that. And it was across the whole state, it wasn't just us. But I want to point out that these are posted bridges, and they also serve as a major connection up to a local quarry. L&W Quarry that's up the north end of these bridges. So we don't have the money to do those bridges, but they're posted bridges in the middle of what is a very active and important connection. So they're in here because I want to draw attention to them. So, I'll jump past those. And those are old enough bridges that when they do they'll be full replacements. There won't be just deck work on those. Pleasant Grove Road, PCC paving. Very roughly and theoretically, because I won't claim I spent a lot of time on that estimate, that's more or less trying to connect from the road, the project we're gonna do this summer over to Highway 61. Do I think that that's realistic? Probably not. Are we gonna have, am I gonna be able to save up $3 million of farm to market money to go do that? I'd say we're probably gonna have something come along. Maybe we need to spend some of that farm to market money on bridges, which we don't normally do. We normally focus our farm to market money on paving and our swap bridge money on bridges. Who knows? But I wanna point that out. That is a segment of road that's on our radar that is not getting any younger. Bridgeport Road, ironically, both of those link to a quarry, and they both have a lot of impact for Des Moines County. So there's about 2 miles of that run from agency down to the quarry, and that would actually connect down to the bridge, is what that would do. So across the Skunk River down to the Des Moines Lee County line. Another project that we just simply have on our radar that we don't have the money for, the rest of Summer Street that isn't concrete needs an asphalt overlay. That's right there just south of the airport is where that's at, and it does need something, but we don't, again, have the money for it right now. More Highway 61 bridge approaches. That number I'm sure will change when we get out that direction. And then I wrap it up with, again, the reminder of rock surfacing, culvert liners, and right of way. So, but that 5th year of the program has a total of just over $8 million in funding. We don't have that money, and I just want to reiterate that again. That's not a realistic goal for us when that year rolls around. Someday, when the 5th year becomes the 1st year, it won't have $8 million of work in it. So the rest of those numbers shouldn't be, they're going to fluctuate obviously, but they're not too far off. So anyway, it's a lot. I know we drove around, looked at stuff last week. Any questions?
Let me do this. If there's any comments regarding the public hearing on the 2022 secondary roads budget and 5-year construction program, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com. Or call 319-753-8203 extension 4. That's 319-753-8203 extension 4. We will give you 2 minutes to initiate that call or that email if you have any comments on the public hearing regarding the 5-year budget and construction program for secondary road. Did the auditor's office receive any email or written comments on this?
I think you should go back. Fill in what I missed.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So, I apologize to interrupt, I hope we get that started, so.
Yeah.
Anybody got any comments on the?
Ryan, I promise I was half listening to you. I may have been half writing the city council story as well.
That's the way it goes.
Ryan, I do have to thank you for the road tours that you've taken us on over the years.
Well,
It really helps us out on understanding all these projects that you bring to us.
yeah, I would rather you guys know what's going on
Yeah.
than not for sure. So, I would encourage you guys to think about being available a little bit more this summer as projects are going on, so I can get you out briefly after meetings and so you can see the progress. It doesn't take that long for you to run out and see, oh, they got this paved, or this is what it looks like, or whatever, and it gives you, when somebody hits you up or emails you or Facebooks you or something like that, when you've already seen it, it gives you a far better feel of what's going on instead of not, I guess. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, when you guys are available Tuesday after board meetings, that's pretty much gold to let you guys see what we're actually getting done.
I'll strap a GoPro to Brian, have him just go ahead and stream those tours to him all.
Alright. I was thinking we could get Colin a roof mount position that he could, a roof mounted position that he could stream all that. I didn't,
Hey, we could do like, they did on that, Lampoon Vacation, get him for auction chair up there. And he
There you
could
go.
film it as we
Why
go.
don't we take one of the sheriff's cars out, you know, it already has recording capabilities. You
Okay,
just have to go
Yeah,
above
no.
50 miles,
Why
above
don't that
whatever,
thing when
you
it's
have to
done,
run the
won't
lights the
stop?
whole time so the camera records.
we could write tickets too.
We could rate tickets.
And then again, the budget, it's a DOT form and the program's a DOT form. I'm not gonna go through the budget, it's nothing new, nothing special. And bluntly, as you already know, program and budget, they could change next week for me. I mean, that's just kind of the world of it. So I would request your approval of both of them and then we will continue working from there.
okay.
Okay,
I need a motion to
move
close
go out
the-
of public hearing.
Second one. Cheryl?
Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
Shane Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Okay, I need a motion to approve the 2022 IDOT secondary roads budget and 5-year construction program.
So moved.
Second,
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business?
I have none.
Future agenda items?
None.
I think, did somebody say about borrow?
No, Barb
Next
was.
Tuesday.
Bob's coming back next week. Cheryl handled it.
Okay. Committee reports.
I didn't have a meeting, but I had a work session with Chris and the county conservation. And we talked about, or they talked about, trying to get some way to get a little extra funding, you know, like trail walk or a trail run or whatever, and various things to kind of help out. That's about it at this point.
And we have a board meeting tomorrow, we're gonna be talking about, changing our camp fees
Yeah.
and shooting range fees, possibly Big Hollow, among other stuff.
I wasn't gonna bring that up until after the meeting.
Yeah, Chris.
It's totally valid.
Shane, any committee reports?
Yeah, but I can't even remember what I was supposed to report right now at the moment, so, there's that.
There's that much excitement, it's hard to.
There wasn't anything going on, but I did have something I was gonna say. Actually, I was gonna report, about a, job fair, but the job fair is not even local. There's one in, like Eldridge, Iowa, and one in Davenport, so I guess I really don't have much to report.
We did not have any committees. Public input. If anybody from the public would like to make a comment or a question, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com, that's BOARD@dmcounty.com, or call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We will give you 2 minutes to initiate those calls or emails. Anybody in the room have any comments? Okay.
I think you should tell us a story while we're waiting.
I think so too.
Tell us a story, Tom. Do tell us.
Tell us a story that's not gonna get you like unelected or anything.
Oh, you'd have to think about that too long. Listen, just.
I told you I fell off a bridge, I'll tell you how I fell off a bridge.
Where was the hiking
Budweiser.
trail tonight?
Linder Conservation Area, LINDER.
Shane, I got one, I went camping down in Lake Sajima, down in Van Buren County this weekend.
Where at?
Lake Sajima, down in Van Buren County, down by Keosauqua.
Yeah, I know.
And, there's a bunch of other folks around, big family group was down there, got to chat with one of the other guys. And we were talking about campgrounds, and he's from Muscatine, and said that he wanted to go to Big Hollow this last weekend, meet some friends, but couldn't get a spot. And so ended up coming down to Sedema instead. So that's how,
That's what the
Well,
dude
why-
said, he was trying to get to Big
he
Hollow.
wanted to go to Big Hollow to meet with friends there, but he couldn't get a spot. Because
Did
we
you start
drove-
laughing at him,
we
saying,
drove
I
in
am
there.
Big Hollow, man?
Yeah, I didn't tell him who I was. And, but, I mean, that's how far they're ranging, you know, when we run out of spots, you
Yeah.
know, they're going 2 counties away.
There's boats,
Ryan?
there's boats there.
Ryan,
hours
there's just one copy, each of those that get signed, do you need them stamped?
You can do whatever you want, we just push a button now.
Okay.
We keep them for our records and just push a button. So, I'm just gonna take a copy and leave originals to daughter probably.
8, 7, 6, 5.
Almost home free.
With an aye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
What can I help you with, lady?